Life happens to her. They laughed and mocked her because she was not married and didn't have children. But she taught them a bitter lesson. Madam Spice was known in the community for her quiet nature. She didn't fight anyone, she didn't gossip, she didn't even bother about village drama. She lived a simple life, going to the market, cooking her food, and returning home to her small compound. But no matter how much she minded her business, the women in the community refused to mind theirs. From her younger days, Madam Spice had dreams. She wanted a tall, God-fearing, handsome, and wealthy husband. She told herself, "Why should I settle for less when I know what I want?" But life didn't follow her script. The men that came her way never had all the qualities she wanted. Some had money but no respect. Some were caring but poor. Others were handsome but unserious. She turned them all down, waiting for the perfect man. By the time she turned 40, something changed. Suitors stopped coming. The visits, the proposals, the gifts all disappeared. And with each year that passed, hope grew smaller. Still, Madam Spice tried to live happily. She cooked her favorite meals, and made herself content. But the women in the community, they never let her rest. At every meeting, every gathering, they found ways to mock her. "Ah, Madam Spice, when are we coming for your child's naming ceremony?" one would ask, pretending to be innocent. Another would laugh and say, "Better hurry up, oh, time is going." Sometimes they passed by her house just to whisper and giggle loud enough for her to hear. Madam Spice always held her tears in public, but when she entered her room, she cried until her pillow was wet. One afternoon at the village square, things got worse. A woman, angry over something small, shouted at her in front of everyone. "Keep quiet there. After all, what do you know about being a real woman? You have no husband, no child. You are just wasting space in this community." The words cut through Madam Spice's heart like a knife. This was different. This was not mockery, this was insult. That night, Madam Spice sat in the dark corner of her room, her eyes swollen from tears. She clenched her fists and whispered to herself, "Enough is enough. They think I am weak. They will soon know Madam Spice is not a woman to joke with." And from that moment, her plan to teach the women of the community a bitter lesson began to grow in her mind. The very next morning, Madam Spice packed a small bag and traveled to a nearby village. Her destination was her late mother's best friend, Mama Gloria, a woman feared and respected. Mama Gloria was not just an ordinary woman, she was a strong herbalist, known for her powerful charms. When Madam Spice arrived, she knelt before Mama Gloria and burst into tears. "Mama, I cannot take it anymore. The women in my community mock me every day. They laugh at me for not having a husband or a child. Mama, I need your help. Give me something that will silence them forever." Mama Gloria looked at her closely, her eyes sharp like a hawk. After a long pause, she nodded slowly. "My daughter, if you truly want this path, I will give you what you need." Without hesitation, Madam Spice wiped her tears and said, "Thank you, Mamap." That evening, Mama Gloria gave her a small clay pot with a dark powder inside, wrapped with red cloth. She whispered instructions on how to use it. Madam Spice carried it carefully, her heart beating fast. When she returned to her community, she had a new plan. She opened a restaurant and bar by the roadside and boldly named it Madam Spice Spot. From the very first day, the business was booming. The aroma of pepper soup, fried fish, and goat meat stew filled the air. Men came from far and near to eat and drink. Music played, laughter filled the compound, and Madam Spice smiled as money poured into her hands. But behind her smile was her secret. Whenever the husbands of the women who used to mock her entered her restaurant, she treated them like kings. She would cook their meals herself and secretly sprinkle the dark substance Mama Gloria had given her. And just as Mama Gloria had promised, once they tasted the food, something strange happened. The men would forget about going home. Instead, they stayed at Madam Spice Spot until late, eating, drinking, even helping to wash plates and clean tables. Day by day, more husbands stopped rushing home after work. Instead, they spent their evenings, and sometimes their nights, at Madam Spice Spot. And the women who mocked Madam Spice, they began to cry the same tears she once cried. 2 months passed. By now, the whole community had changed. The very women who used to mock Madam Spice were now living in sorrow. Their husbands, once proud men of the village, were no longer returning home. From morning till night, they stayed at Madam Spice's spot. Some were in the kitchen, cooking. Some were at the bar, cleaning tables. Others were outside, washing plates and serving customers with big smiles. And where was Madam Spice? She sat like a queen on her chair, wrapper tied neatly, counting her sales as money flowed in. The same men who once ignored her now worked for her like loyal servants. The women became restless. They went to Madam Spice's spot many times to drag their husbands home, but each time the men looked at them with blank faces, as if they were strangers. "Honey, let's go home," one woman begged her husband. But the man only shook his head and replied, "Home? Which home? Leave me alone, I'm busy." Then he turned back to wash more plates. The women cried and cried. They tried prayers, fasting, even advice from elders, but nothing worked. Their husbands were completely under Madam Spice's control. One hot afternoon, a group of the women stormed Madam Spice's spot together. They found her sitting with a glass of palm wine, enjoying herself while their husbands worked like slaves. They shouted in unison, "Madam Spice, why are you doing this to us? What have we done to deserve this?" Madam Spice looked at them slowly, then burst into laughter. A loud, mocking laughter that echoed through the compound. "You ask what you did," she said, rising from her chair. "You mocked me. You insulted me. You laughed at my pain. Now look at you. Where are your husbands? Right here, working for me. And that is how it will remain." The women begged, but Madam Spice only clapped her hands, and her workers, their husbands, chased them out of the bar like unwanted strangers. As they left, their cries filled the air. Madam Spice sat back down, smiling, sipping her drink. For the first time in her life, she felt powerful. A whole year passed, and life turned bitter for the women of the community. Their homes were empty, their pockets dry, and their children hungry. With their husbands gone, there was no breadwinner to provide. Some tried small trading, others begged family for help, but nothing could replace the strength of their men. The same women who once mocked Madam Spice now cried every night. One morning, tired of suffering, they gathered courage and went back to Madam Spice's spot. They stood at the entrance, tears in their eyes, and begged, "Madam Spice, please forgive us. We mocked you, we hurt you, but we are sorry. Please, release our husbands." But Madam Spice sat on her chair, sipping palm wine, refusing to look at them. "Sorry. After all the years you mocked me. After all the tears I cried. No, I don't forgive easily." The women did not leave. Instead, they did the unthinkable. They joined their husbands. Some tied wrappers and started washing plates. Some entered the kitchen to cook. Others carried trays and served customers. For 2 weeks straight, they humbled themselves, working in Madam Spice's bar like servants. Finally, one evening, Madam Spice sat quietly, watching them scrub pots and sweep floors. She sighed deeply and shook her head. They have suffered enough. They have truly learned their lesson. The next morning, she walked into the bar with her small clay pot from Mama Gloria. She whispered some words, sprinkled the dark powder on the ground, and clapped her hands. Suddenly, the men blinked, dropped the plates in their hands, and looked around confused. It was as if they were waking up from a long dream. Without a word, they picked up their things and walked home, back to their families. The women cried tears of joy, hugging their husbands tightly. They turned to thank Madam Spice, but she only waved her hand and said, "Go. And never mock another woman for what she lacks. Life has a way of humbling everyone. Respect others, because life can turn tables when you least expect it."